All right, good morning. It's Tuesday. We're going to continue with the Black Plague today. And starting today and really through this week and next week, we're going to be looking at some documents, primary sources from the time period, and also some secondary sources like charts and graphs and things like that to learn about what the Black Plague was, the Black Death, and how it spread so quickly and who it affected. So today is a longer reading. So I'm giving you today and tomorrow. It's long. I'm not going to lie, but I think you're really going to like it. And I'm going to talk about a few paragraphs in here, and then I'll talk about a few tomorrow. I'm going to do a Google Meet today. I'm going to do two. We did this in the past. I'm going to do two sessions, an AM or an early AM session and a later AM session. The first one at 8:45 and then the second one at 11:45, and that would be for blocks 1 and 2 at 8:45. Actually, anyone, doesn't matter. So you can join either session whenever you want, just to go over anything. If you're confused on anything, confused on any words, confused on the meaning of anything, I'll be happy to talk about any of that. So Mr. McManus put together this wonderful looking document, and it's all centralized on this question. It's set up like a DBQ, except some of the documents are longer or maybe a little bit more confusing, and we kind of have to think about all of the documents together. And there'll be more than just like 5 or 6 this time. In this one, there's only 2, but then like tomorrow or Thursday, there's going to be like 5. Next week, there's going to be like 5 more. So there's a lot. So it's kind of have to think big picture on this. But this one, we're just figuring out what the Black Death was. Answer this question, and this should be very easy to answer. Do you think that disease can change the world? If so, how? If not, how come? So just write your answer in here. And then we have source A from Giovanni Boccaccio, a novel about the Black Death. From the Decameron, translated by a guy named David Burr, and it's just parts of it. And it's from 1353. So at first glance, we are seeing that this is a primary source because that is exactly when the Black Death, the Black Plague was happening. The following is taken from Giovanni Boccaccio, the Decameron, introduction. Boccaccio lived through the plague and wrote this description shortly thereafter, but he borrowed liberally, meaning he borrowed a lot from an earlier writer who's describing a completely different plague. So he actually takes some of the descriptions from someone else and describes and uses it to describe his plague. So keep that in mind and think about that when you're answering the overall question of what was the Black Death. All right, so there's about 3 pages of this, but I think you will really like it and draw a lot of connections to what our world is like right now. Like this paragraph. There were some who thought moderate living and the avoidance of excess had a great deal to do with the avoiding of illness, so they lived apart from others in small groups. They congregated and shut themselves up in houses where no one had been sick, partaking moderately of the best foods and the finest wine, avoiding excess in other ways as well, trying their best not to speak or hear any news about the death and illness outside. That's some people's reaction now. They're just kind of living alone in their house, kind of having a good time, trying to avoid what's going on in the outside. Others were the opposite opinion. They believed that drinking a good deal, enjoying themselves, going out, singing, having fun, satisfying all their appetites as much as they could, laughing, joking, was sure medicine for any illness. Thus, doing exactly as they prescribed, they spent day and night moving from one tavern to the next, drinking without mode or measure, and doing the same thing in other people's homes, engaging only in those activities that gave them pleasure. And it goes on to describe them, some people just ignoring it all and just going out and having a really good time. Some were of a crueler opinion, though perhaps a safer, that they said there was no better medicine against the plague than to escape it. Moved by this argument and caring for nothing but themselves, a large number of men and women abandoned their city. We see this in New York City. Tons of people are leaving Manhattan because they're afraid of getting sick. So there's a lot of similarities in here, even if it's not Boccaccio's actual words, to what is happening now, back then in that plague. Then they also talk about um, how poor people, the middle class and the poor, had a harder time with this, which is something we're also seeing. So really, I hope you draw a lot of conclusions from this longer text to what's going on in the world today. Then there's another source. This is a picture, illustration of the Black Death. We can also take this as a primary source because it's from 1400s when the Black Death was still going on. And here we have a doctor doing something, and here are the patients with the plague all over them. And you take notice about, is he caring for them directly? Does it look like he's doing anything productive? What is he doing? So take this image and the longer text and then answer this question. Write a description of the Black Death that includes the symptoms and where outbreaks occurred in Europe and Asia. All right, so take what you know from these two sources, source A and source B, put it together and write that description. Again, this is longer, so I'm going to have you break this reading up over today and tomorrow. And if you have any questions, feel free to hop on the Google Meet today at 8:45 or 11:45 to ask any questions. Good luck. I think you'll like it. I know it's long. So before you get annoyed at me, remember you have 2 days to work on this, today and tomorrow. You could do like this part, the what do you think, and start reading source A today, and then tomorrow finish reading source A and then do the task down here below. It's totally up to you. That's the way I break it up though. All right, so let me know if you have any questions. C3 Black Plague document activity.